All right, so let's get into the current status of Solana, what's happening within the ecosystem, but also taking a look at some of the news around Solana because there is something brewing here. And we'll break into all of this good stuff today. I think you're going to like it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Getting into it today. Before we do get started, though, because we got a lot of tokens here, I think you guys are going to be wanting to pay attention to, especially in this next bull run. But I do want to thank our sponsors, and that is Chart Prime. If you guys are looking to elevate your trading game, this is one of the tools that we use here in-house. And we kind of pair this with our sentiment data and then utilize this. We also drop some additional trading analysis videos in our actual mastermind group. So if you guys are looking at maybe trying to amp up your trading games, this is the way to do it. Chart Prime, they've got the Market Oracle Pro, one of the easiest tools to track, and their Dynamics Pro also. Again, very similar to some other oscillators and some other indices that you probably have used in the past. This is one I think that really does the job. So make sure and check it out. Use our link down below to get a discount, and it does help the channel out. Let's get into Solana. And as you know, we've had a little bit of a run on Solana, and many people have looked at it. All right, if you were listening to our altcoin show last week when Tim and I broke that down, Solana was the one token that we were continuing to look at that could see the breakout. Sentiment started climbing on it, and then Tim was basically breaking down, hey, there's some action here potentially on the Chart Prime charts that we were looking at that showed some upward trends. In fact, that did happen. But if you look at Solana Beach and you look at just in general what we've got here, just like for current transactions per second, 4426, total transactions continuing to climb. So not bad overall. Some other things to watch in terms of the scalability of Solana is when you get into the overall Solana NFT marketplace. And let me kind of just show this in comparison to, say, some of the ETH marketplace. But these are the blue chip index right here on Sol. And if you just look at the movement here overall, upwards considerably from what was kind of the downtrend for Solana, and I'll call that the FTX event. But since then, Solana has started to really scale in terms of NFTs. So could this be the platform and the layer one that does make the move when it comes to NFTs, redelivery of market growth? We'll see how this plays out in the coming months. Some other things that I wanted to show, and this is probably one of the bigger ones, and I'll just highlight this right here. But blockchains by NFT sales volume. This is the first time that Solana has flipped Ethereum in terms of sales volume, and you can see it right there going up to 25 million. This gets pretty significant, I think, because when you look at the bear market as it is right now and what we're dealing with Solana and where NFTs are going, this is a very good sign for Solana. Now, I understand a lot of people are still concerned about all these delistings and scenarios that play into that, and we'll get into some alternatives if you're not comfortable with that, but maybe you're outside the United States. And how that plays out. Here, of course, is a little bit here of further going into Solana. Remember, this gets into what's happening over on Metaplex. We did a little bit of a video on this to kind of showcase the amount of growth that was happening in these compressed capabilities of where Solana is going. You can see the growth right here. Obviously, Bubblegum, the technology there that's starting to move on this for compressed NFTs. And I think the scenario that plays out within this right now is when you look at NFTs, what's happening within the Solana ecosystem and the potential opportunity of a bear market starting to become a bull market, this might be a very interesting timing for where Solana is right now. We'll look at the charts later on as we get into it today. All right, so let's jump over to just this breakdown here on staking rewards. And you can see it right here, Solana now flipping Cardano in terms of staking market cap. So 7.58 billion now over the 6.6 billion on market cap for Cardano. So that's another good indicator right here as we look at Solana being a huge opportunity here in terms of staking. And I'd love to know, before we get into this next section, I'd love to know how many of you guys are staking your Solana, and if so, where are you staking it? Drop some comments down below. We always love to give your feedback on that. And if you're a Solana lover, make sure to smash the like button right now. It does help us and others who maybe are starting to research Solana get in and really understand what's happening in the ecosystem. Now, let's get into what is the upside. If you look at this chart right here, this was by Masari. here recently. And they basically said, hey, scalability is a factor in the crypto space with modular approach gaining popularity. Solana has taken a very contrarian stance, and they look at where the current market is to where the potential market could grow all the way up into these tier levels. Tier 3, we'll go to that one. Unexplored Solana's combo of low asset mint plus transfer cost, high TPS, low latency, composability. You hear us talk about this a lot within the NFT ecosystem and a lot of our NFT videos that we do. These are key things that make Solana a very interesting platform, and also one that could potentially explode in terms of growth. Now, how is that growth going to happen? That's the question. So if you look at what's happening with Jump Crypto, they kind of hit it right here. Scale changes everything. This gets into the whole aspect of Firedancer and what it means to the growth of all of this. Now, I've got a few clips here that I want to play for you guys. Let's get to this first clip. This is Kevin Bowers talking about speed of light. Let's go to that one.
Before I came to Jump, I worked on really big supercomputers at the extremes of scale. Coming to a finance firm, a lot of people kind of said, what the heck does a finance firm need with somebody with a background in computational physics? The market heavily rewards being the first to offer the best deals to the market. And so if you have an unperformant technical stack, you're going to be in second place or irrelevant at all. You're not going to make any money. Everything becomes about optimizing data flow and how you move data around the system, and you're limited by speed of light. Solana's in that position. We see a lot of features for things that Jump was going through 10 years ago and how we needed to technically evolve in order to make the systems performant, to make them work. We'd like to see kind of higher performance levels that can exist there, more robustness, more resilience. And these are all things that we've had to do. And so I think that's why we're well qualified.
All right, so good one there. He's got an additional comment here in our clip too on trading exchanges and the competition that's going to happen. Listen in.
And from my more computer science point of view, an exchange is just a concurrent data structure that runs a distributed protocol to do consensus price discovery. In old-timey photos like you see here, you can even see people standing at a chalkboard running the algorithm by hand. Now in this example, Alice is impatient to buy and offers a very high price. Alice and Bob trade first. If Alice wants more than Bob is offering, Alice and Carol trade next. And if Alice wants more still, Alice will wait for the rest after the trades. If the exchange gave the initial trade to Carol, Alice would conclude the exchange is a bad place run by bad people who should feel bad and take her business to another exchange where they have better policies. And if there was no such other exchange for Alice to take her business to, there'd be big pressure and big opportunity to create one. And then the bad exchange would learn the hard way the answer to the question, what would happen if you made an exchange and nobody showed up? This is literally preschool logic. I was first in line, teacher. It is well motivated theoretically, though. People want the best prices because nobody wants to pay more, and they want them as soon as possible because few are willing to wait. So exchanges want lots of people to show up because they can only improve the price. Now, on top of that, I stole this phrase from our COO, who recently used it in a presentation, of this competitive paranoia. And this price-time dynamic that I talked about creates a winner-take-most dynamic. It's very Talladega Nights, if you're not first, you're last kind of mentality. Anything that we can buy, our competitors can buy. So by itself, any commodity technology is not a source of competitive advantage. When crypto started taking off, though, and we saw the potential in the trends, we started waking up to the fact that we have a lot to offer outside of conventional trading. We realized that instead of being way behind in many areas, we were way ahead.
So I think what he's really alluding to here is that there is going to be a shift, especially in the exchange business and possibly even in institutional finance. And what I mean by is a shift, you've heard us talk about what Larry Fink has kind of referred to is that tokenization of really stocks and securities will become the holy grail. And that's going to create speed and the demand-driven capability of these exchanges to be able to deal with this kind of really new way of dealing with different types of transactions. But the area that really gets into it is scale. And that's what he talks about in this next clip. Let's listen. This is actually Anatoly talking about Firedancer. Listen in.
And I believe that makes Solana the only other network with a second client other than Ethereum. So I'd love for you to dive in on really what Firedancer is and how it improves performance.
It's really, really cool. This is like what I had dreamed of Solana should be designed like when I started, but we just didn't have the resources to like kind of build it from scratch that way. The kind of like results they're demonstrating are ridiculous. So like during Breakpoint, they showed they can do, this is like commodity hardware off the shelf Intel boxes was handling 600,000 transactions per second throughput through like the transaction like scheduling stage.
It's like, at what point would you admit defeat and be like, damn, like I was completely wrong on my thesis on how to scale blockchains?
Well, I don't think I'm going to be wrong on scaling part. I think we have to, for me to like question it, I'd like to see Ethereum and all the L2s combined to even match what Solana does from applications today. I guess I would be impressed if like the post-dank sharding, if the throughput of that system was anywhere close to Firedancer. Like I think I'd be like, okay, this is like very much a valid scaling solution. I think probably my guess is that Firedancer is going to be like 100x. It's just like it's really, really hard to compete with like an optimized server at a data center with like 10 to 100 gigabits worth of available bandwidth, and like it's very hard to compete with that system, right? It has all the cores, all the raw resources. The only bottlenecks right now on Solana are like our stupid code that we wrote as fast as we could to launch. Like that's not fully optimized, and the Firedancer guys don't have that like constraint. They're like actually building it the way it should have been, from scratch, like from the ground up. We're not talking about like $100,000 servers. This is literally like $350 from Latitude.sh is like, multi, like very large core system that can do 10 million of ops per second on a single core.
So what he hits on there is two things. One, of course, is the whole issue of scalability without running into the headwinds of equipment. And when you look at what it takes from compute power of being able to run a lot of these big, huge data centers, Anatoly is right. I mean, he's getting into the scenario where a lot of this equipment doesn't necessarily have to go at that level. The other thing is the ability for what Firedancer has done has really kind of leveled up in terms of overall transaction speed, but the opportunity to scale. This was a piece done by Masari kind of showing that Firedancer puts Solana in the range of Web 2. Now, that's a big statement because Web 2 right now is running at lightning speed. All your e-commerce that you do out there, everything you buy on the internet today, that's a Web 2 environment. And those are pretty much, have you ever run into a scenario where you've waited for a transaction to approve? If you look at this chart, it shows Twitter's, will go currently, even though Elon made some changes this weekend. But this was during the World Cup final surge. Then you look at Visa right down there on the chart. So basically 1,700 transactions per second median with a 65,000 transaction capacity. And then 20,000 trades per second on NASDAQ. And then right above all those is Solana and Firedancer when Firedancer is used, going from around 6,000 to 1.2 million transactions per second with a median at 85 to 180. So what that simply says is that we are seeing the potential here for Solana to completely supplant what maybe is going to be needed in terms of scale for transactions. So that's, at the end of the day, being able to scale Web 2, the number one thing you've got to have is easy onboard and unbelievable and solid transactions. That's the question mark, solid transactions as we go forward. All right, so let's get into this one here. It kind of goes from the top to through the bottom, so Kraken being the fastest and so on. But you look at Solana right there in the mix of things with Firedancer at 400 to 500 milliseconds. So again, this is almost instantaneous, probably something you would not even recognize in terms of transaction. And speed is going to be pretty significant, especially as you get into the bull runs. You guys understand that because it can mean something even in a short trade. Because remember, all about trading is going to be speed. Speed kills and will by far be the number one attribute of a lot of these layer ones, and the opportunity of being able to really kind of jump into traditional finance, because that's one thing that they're going to require. So with all that being said, you've got a couple of other aspects. One aspect of Solana is that we haven't seen dramatic growth in wallets. So a lot of people look at this, and I know my friend James over at Invest Answers, he looks at this chart, doesn't like it every time we show this, because it does show, this is the all-time, but if you go back here in the last 3 months, it's not necessarily bad because there was a nice little climb there, but a drop down here to, again, almost 250,000 in terms of active wallets. And if you look at the high, let me jump back here to the all-time. I mean, now you're going back to right there, April of 2021, when we had 3 million wallets. That's a significant difference here. Now, is there that many people that are maybe shifting what they're using out there, or has there just been disinterest? That's the real question mark, I think, that will face a lot of people who are investing in Solana. So now, the good with the bad. All the good is capability, scalability, opportunity. Obviously, we've seen some of the things that Solana can do. Other blockchains that are moving pretty much in unison, I think, are Avalanche. Avalanche, of course, has come in and pretty much gone tit for tat on this. Daily active users right now on Avalanche, as you can see, just absolutely skyrocketing right here. So that's a good one. You've heard us talk about Avalanche. It's one that we also believe is maybe a gateway chain between, what is out there on Web 2 to Web 3 and what that might look like. So I'm still very, very bullish on where Avalanche is going. Another one that has really kind of come to the forefront, and we've tracked this one for quite some time on our CPI, our Crypto Power Index, but that is Flow. And you look at Flow's growth right here. This is transaction volume. Again, starting to really accelerate right here over these past few months. And I think this is another one. And if you're following Flow and what we talked about, I guess about maybe 10 days ago when we isolated Flow and said, hey, this one is getting ready to do something. Sentiment started moving on this one. We'll show that in a minute. And then now, obviously, well, currently, if you're trading in Flow, you know what's happening. So definitely on the move right now. Now let's look at the comparison to uptimes. If you look at Solana, I'm going to do a little experiment here. We're starting in May, and we're just going to scan back into each one of there's February, and then you go back into the next 3 months. There was one right there that we saw down. Here's one back in October and September. And then we go back a little further, we get into May and June. We'll leave it at there, all right? Now I want to jump over to Avalanche in the same scenario. And you can we'll start in February through April and go back, nothing, and nothing, and nothing. So Avalanche holding up fairly well. Now, granted, can it hold up at scale? That will be the question mark that everybody will always ask. Flow, kind of the same thing. Here's May, going back into February, November, August, all the way back into May of last year. Again, no downtime. So if you're looking at those as critical, performance, which a lot of people do in terms of scalability, especially if you're looking to do transactions and you're looking for institutional movement and the ability to work even maybe within exchanges and things of that nature, uptime is just as important as speed. So these are some pretty significant things. I've got a clip here from Raoul Pal that I want to play next. Listen into what Raoul had to say.
I started to dig in. I owned a small amount of Solana, but I started to dig in June to really look at the ecosystem and look at the depth of the ecosystem. And I thought, you know what? This feels like an ETH 2018 moment. If I were to say Solana stands for one thing, it's a consumer application chain. Now, narrative is everything in this game, particularly in crypto. Somebody's going to own blockchain of gaming. Somebody's going to own blockchain of finance in the end. The pessimism was obscene. People attacking everybody who could be vaguely bullish. So what I tend to do is I have a few cross rates that I look at. So back in 2020, I had the Bitcoin ETH cross. I saw the change in narratives between the two, the adoption, everything else, and I switched most of my investment into ETH. I'm looking at, and I wouldn't do it to the same extent because it's not as big, but I'm looking at, for example, the Solana ETH cross. Does that start moving? So would I switch capital based on something like that? Yes, I might increase an allocation. So at least I feel like I'm doing something.
I don't know. I would look at Solana in a very strong way. It is, again, a top 5 token for us in our current portfolio. And the question would be is, do you make a change now? Is this something that you would do, maybe coming out of AVAX or maybe coming out of Ethereum and starting to rebalance your portfolio going into this next bull run with Solana being a big play of that? I don't know. Would you do it? Love to know. Drop some comments down below. Let's get into staking, because that's one of the things that has really taken a little bit of a pump here recently over this past 10 days. And if you look at the current StakeView app, This is Solana Validator and their performance. Most of these in some of the high levels, very, very risky. Just be aware of that. But you get in further down into the top 20 and you've got all nodes here, no fee, also paying almost 8% at 797. So these are significant numbers in being able to stake Solana at scale, and these kinds of rewards that are being paid out. I mean, if you were looking at this and saying, I'm going to invest in a token like this, I'm going to go with a layer one, I'm going to have some of my balance or some of my portfolio between ETH, Solana, Avalanche, etc. Why wouldn't I do something like this? That I think that's the question that a lot of people are seeing, which is why I think we're continuing to see some growth in that area. Again, going back to the wallet growth, that still has a little bit of a bad taste. That's the question mark that I think has to be answered. I think the key here is going to get back into Solana being involved in more public relation type activities, not that they're doing it themselves, but as a centralized, L1, it needs to be able to really showcase its wins, much like what's happened with Polygon in the layer 2 space, much like what is happening right now with even smaller, layer ones like a Flow, but has been able to achieve some pretty amazing things. So just be aware of that. All right, the other thing you have to worry about is these delistings. Here's Revolut now is delisting Polygon, Solana, and Cardano tokens in the US. And if you guys don't know, Revolut is a neobank. It's one of the ones we've covered. It has some great opportunity. It's very well known in Europe, but it's trying to make its way into the United States. This is a big strike because the opportunity here, again, for these neobanks have been, in my opinion, one of the best places to be able to actually offer or grab crypto and have a bank account at the same time. There's a handful of those that are like that. And Revolut doing this, I think, is a bit of a concern to me. And of course, I think it is also a bit of a concern to a lot of people who are looking at long term. However, doesn't mean necessarily that this is going to go away. And there are other opportunities that start to play into this. Here's Vitalik saying one thing, and this is kind of interesting. I'll make a comment that makes me feel bad that Solana, other projects are getting hit in this way. He's talking about these delistings. They don't deserve it. And if Ethereum ends up winning through all other blockchains getting kicked off exchanges, that's not an honorable way to win. But listen, at the end of the day, these are normal processes that happen within business. They got to work their way around it. It's going to happen. I think this is just something, it's a matter of timing here, I think, overall. But especially true since real competition is not other chains, it's the rapid expanding centralization world that is imposing itself on us as we speak. So that, I think everybody who's watching our show would agree with that statement from Vitalik, very astute in that component in terms of decentralized wins. Solana Labs co-founder explores Ethereum as a layer 2 solution for Solana. This would be interesting, if anything. And I think there was a couple of points he was making here that are interesting. Here was Toly talking about this. Delved into an intriguing possibility of Ethereum functioning as a layer 2 on Solana. Now remember, if ETH does win, and if ETH is, marked as a commodity, and we don't see a challenge, and ETH becomes the new level up playing field, the problem ETH has, and has always had, is scale, even with what we look at right now. And I want you to also remember, this is something I talk about all the time, and that is the ability to scale. Remember, we're at a $1 trillion market cap right now, pretty much across all of crypto. ETH is a fraction of that. For us to be able to scale at 10x to 20x of that, it's going to take transactions. And ETH is not ready for that. So this is an intriguing idea, and it's one that I think maybe is worth listening to. You kind of look at on his tweet right here. Would it be possible for Ethereum to be a Solana L2? Probably more likely than you might think at first glance. L2s are bridge protocols that provide a way of security. And in this setup, holders of Solana assets on Ethereum would have finality guarantees that they can exit back and forth. So that, I think, is pretty cool in the aspect of this. I don't know. I would love to get your input on it. I know that we have a lot of Ethereum fans out there. I'm going to get over to the charts a little bit. Just as a reminder, if you guys, one of the ways that we get additional content to our members is through our mastermind group. And many people have been asking about how to get in there. The way you do it, because we don't really show it up here on the top masthead, you go to memberships at the top, And then you'll find this group right here, which is our mastermind. First of all, you get the CPI. You also get video analysis over there that we do every week that are both TA analysis and additional. And there's a private Slack group also. So that's probably the biggest value because it gets all of the early stuff and anything that we're doing on the weekends even within that. I wanted to show flow because this was in the CPI. And back here on the 16th, we had a pretty low report. Flow started making a move here on the 19th. And as you can see, it leveled up right here and then started its move over the last few days. So it's been continuing to climb. And then when you look at what's happening within flow, just in this short period of time, we'll go over here to take a look at the chart real quick since we talked about flow a little bit there. Let me go to the daily and then squeeze that down a little bit for you guys. So you can kind of see we've been talking about this for about a week to 10 days. And right there is the movement. If you were grabbing that back here on Thursday of even last week, you're still looking at a 46% gain. This is an interesting one, and this is one we're watching closely because of what's happening this month. Again, we showed in a video kind of this whole flow to the future thing that's happening on the 15th or through the 15th of July. I think also with flow in general, this is an intriguing blockchain that may make its way into a very big opportunity. If you look at market cap on this one, very interesting to track. Full disclosure, this is one I own. It has moved into one of our top 5 tokens for my portfolio. And I'm going to continue to look at this one. I still like Solana and I still like Ethereum and of course Bitcoin. So Avalanche is in there as well. Render was kicked out of our top 5 and Flow took its place. Render of course has moved, but remember Render, you're getting a chance to get back in down here at some spots around 180. And if you look at that, that's on the daily, and scan back out here to Render back to the first of the year. These were entry points that really were moving. So Render still on an upward trend, but down from its high right there around mid-May, so which was 290, almost $3, which is not bad, but trading at 213 right now. Again, Render still holding some of that, but further in down our list in terms of overall capacity. Make sure and jump in on the Diamond Circle. It's another place for you guys to grab additional content. We do a podcast over there that doesn't go out anywhere else except on the Diamond Circle. And we do additional content over there that are just quick hits on audio analysis, videos, all kinds of stuff, only on the Diamond Circle. It's very easy. Click the link down below. If you guys want to catch me, it's out there on Twitter, @Paul Barrett. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.